Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Things They Won't Say. Wow, that was rough. I'm your host, Linus,
I'm Sai.
and this is
How's that?
episode 4. And today we're going to be talking about things that we don't really like about religion, problems it's caused, just the bad side of it all. To really ruin our image after the last week's episode.
So we started off by shitting on Christians. We made it up for talking good about all religion. Now we're gonna be shitting on
all of
religion.
it, because there's some bad shit that we need to talk about. I mean, where to start? Like, that's the real question.
Let's start.
You want to go way back?
Let's start with. Let's go way back.
Let's go way back. So we should talk about the Crusades.
Yes.
Crusades. Okay. So first off, the whole fighting over Jerusalem thing.
Well, that's even now.
I mean, okay,
That's still happening now.
You're right.
It's still going on now.
Jerusalem. I get it. Big holy site for all three religions.
That's an understatement.
It is. But a portion of the Crusades, led by the Christian side of things, had some dark roots.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one of the first Crusades, they were just like, hey, if you're a rapist, a murderer, a thief, anyone who's ever sinned, and you want to wash all your sins away, go take back Jerusalem, guys. And so the Pope was like, yeah, let's send everyone to do that.
The Pope was like, all right, so during the time, obviously, Europe was like in chaos.
I mean, yeah, it's all sorts of divided.
When is Europe not in chaos anyways?
Even now, it's
Even
still...
now. Even now. And so the Pope was like, we're all Christians, we're all brothers and sisters in our faith. We shouldn't be fighting each other. We should be fighting, his words, the dirty Muslims.
Yeah, like
right?
the dogs of other...
Yeah, the dogs
like,
of other
religions.
The heathens.
The
heathens,
heathens.
right?
Yeah.
So he put the religions together as like a team building exercise. It's literally
it's like,
what it was.
okay, guys, and we're all going to do some push-ups, and now
We're gonna
kill
go-
some people.
We're going to hack and burn.
But no, so, like, the fact that they just sent those people there, I mean, they pillaged, raped, slaughtered, thieved everyone along the way. So they just, wreak havoc through all of Europe, and then they get there. And I forget, did they even win?
The first Crusades they did.
Okay, so they win and they
pulled a... I'm no military strategist, but they pulled, I would call it like a good victory.
Okay.
And mainly because they had the element of surprise, because like no one expected
the first Crusade.
No one expected a bunch of fucking people to run from Europe all the way through
for months
through Greece, Anatolia, and then down to Jerusalem, right?
And just take it over.
Yeah.
And so I just remember there's a few more Crusades, and they start sending like their militaries.
Then they captured it. I'm gonna get the date wrong. I think it was the thousands, late
like
1096, 1098,
somewhere around there.
Like that. They kept it until they kept it for 100 years, I think, until it was reconquered.
And then all just the consistent wars started to the Crusades. Mm-hmm. And I still think my favorite one is the fact that Europe had the bright idea, okay, so sending the sinners didn't work, sending our military didn't work, I got it. Let's send our children. So they were like, you know what? The most pure people are the people who haven't lived on this planet long enough. So they took their kids, and then they took them down to Italy, and went to these Italian merchants. Like, okay, guys, we're gonna pay you tons of money, and you're gonna take all 100,000 of these 6-year-olds, okay, and you're gonna take them over, and they're gonna go capture Jerusalem. So sounds like a great idea, and then Italy was like, nah, and went straight to Africa and sold all of them into slavery.
Yeah.
they just complete epic failure. A whole generation of Europe gone.
What a fucking power move.
I mean, the money that Italy got from that though did end up fueling the Renaissance.
One of my.
So was it worth it?
No. No, it is. No,
let's sell 100,000 kids into slavery, and we'll create the Renaissance.
So I think, in addition to that, I think it was the second or third Crusade, where they were still using their military. The Crusaders went to Venice. They hired them to take them to Jerusalem. They didn't have the money, and so Venice was like, "All right, we're going to stop and we're going to attack a rival city-state. And you're going to do that. We're going to rob them, and you give us the money, we'll take you there." So they went to another city-state in They went to another city-state in Italy and attacked them. The city-state was started with like an A, I want to say. I don't remember what it is exactly. If you know it, then like
feel free to comment.
Yeah, comment or correct me. Yeah. And then they did that, and then Venice was like, okay, we can profit off this more. Went and fucking sacked Constantinople. the capital of the Byzantine Empire and the Orthodox sect of Christianity.
It was like, let's do this.
And then so they sacked Constantinople. The Pope then excommunicated his own crusaders, meaning that he indirectly sent them to hell. And then I think then they were just like, they either went to then Jerusalem and failed, or they were just like a band of marauding bandits, and they just went around and like just were.
It's just the Crusades were such a mess, and the fact that like the main tenet of like is like don't kill of a religion, and then you like start wars over your religion, that like murder your own people.
Yeah.
With the original, let alone destroy your own generation of children.
It was bizarre. Like the entire point of that was to try, and I mean, the idea of it from the Pope was a good idea, right?
I mean, it was like a power.
From his
it was a political power move. Like, let's be real. Let's unify all of Europe under this idea,
under the Christian banner,
and like go for it. And then it was just a flop by the end of it all. Yeah. I mean, he didn't have to see it flop because it worked while he was alive. Granted, so the first guy was like success.
I think another funny story in it. I think in the Second Crusade or something like that, France, England, and the Holy Roman Emperor all went to Jerusalem. They brought their own armies. Now, historically, France and England they have always fought at each other.
They got a bad relationship.
Yeah. So it's kind of like almost like an unhealthy marriage, I guess is what I would call it.
It's like, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Or the kid being the Holy Roman Emperor is the only thing keeping it together. So you have mom being France, dad being England, they're constantly at each other's throats fighting. And, dad's got, like, the belt, mom's got, like, a gun, and they're about to kill each other.
And then the HRE walks
guy
in.
is just walking in.
And he's like, let's stop fighting, and let's go work as a team. And so they head over.
So they're marching over, and the HRE guy falls off his horse and drowns in 2 feet of water. Or something like that.
Wasn't it because his armor was too heavy?
It's because his armor, I mean, they're hulking knights in full plate mail armor that weighs like 80 pounds. So you can't exactly sit up easy in it. So he just drowned in like 2 feet of water. And so then after
it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like, the whole, like, flagship leader of your military, and you're like, oh, just prancing through some water on your big high horse, and just, boom, dead.
Yeah, and he dies. And so France and England then, I don't know if it was France or England, but the other one was like, all right, their military is in home, let's go attack them. And one of them attacked the other. And then the other one just kind of returned home, and it was a failure.
Yeah.
So it was a waste of everyone's time.
It's just a waste of time and money. I'm just glad that Italy gained something out of it for the Renaissance to happen. We love the Renaissance, but oh my lord.
It was a big mess.
It was a whole entire mess. And so, like, another thing, like, bad things about religion is, like, the divide it creates. Because, like, we just talked about the fact that a war was started over a city because of religious, like, necessity, per se. But, like, the divide it creates, I mean, you had all the things that the church did wrong, indulgences, and all of those, like, all those different terms for all, like, the things, like, holding multiple offices. Because you were family with someone, you'd bring them into an office and, like, give them a position of power in the church. And then, like, Martin Luther came on and was like, he created the original shitpost.
Yeah, he did. He was like, maybe don't do that.
And then, so you created a divide in the church. Great Schism and everything.
No, this Great Schism was
that was earlier.
That was Orthodox.
Oh, that was Orthodox. My bad. So now you have Orthodox, Catholic, Protestant, though. Mm-hmm. So you got these two divides that create. And so now you have all these different Christians who are like, yeah, we're all Christian, but we totally beef with each other even to today.
Which is, it was kind of something that I didn't really understand as a kid, where it was like,
aren't you Christian?
I'm Catholic. Where like I'd be, one of my friends said, and when I was a kid, I was like, they were talking to me and they would be like, oh, I'm a Catholic. I'm like, so you're a Christian? He's like, no, I'm Catholic. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean?
It's just a whole mess of all sorts of things. I mean, you have divides in other religion, the Sunni and Shiites.
Sunni Shiite.
In Islam, I mean, you have,
Those are the two famous.
Those are the two famous divides. I mean, you have all the different like
Or
sects of like the
not
Jewish
famous,
faith.
more infamous.
Infamous. There you go.
You
We have
know.
all the different sects of the Jewish faith, with like there's Orthodox and I had a list of this back in the
Jewish
day.
and the Jewish faith.
Yeah.
There's an Orthodox branch.
There's Orthodox Jews. There's more modern like people of the Jewish faith. Like there's a lot of different.
Well,
like,
I didn't
ways
even
to
know.
learn. You'll learn about it in comparative
Yeah.
religions next
I
semester.
didn't even know that there was.
Yeah, no, there's like
divide.
it's not necessarily like a huge divide, but like there's
Not
definitely
divide,
a
but, like,
difference.
brains, yeah,
You know, there's
branches.
a difference between how they think. So like they could get into arguments. I mean, it happens. But no, and just like the divide between religion to religion in general, and like the concept that we talk about is like new religions can absorb things from old religions, but an old religion has to stand by what it's said, otherwise it admits that it's wrong. As like a huge thing. So like Judaism could not accept anything that Christianity added on, but Christianity could keep the whole Old Testament.
Well, yeah. So
And then like Islam could kind of deny a few things that happened, but keep a lot of the Judea. Like,
go ahead and explain. Like, you know, I understand what you're saying, but I just don't think like a lot of the viewers would know what you're talking about.
So basically, like with the Old Testament, it's what the Jewish faith was built on, as far as I am knowledgeable of. So it's built on those ideas, so they have to stand by those. So when Christianity comes along and say, hey, Jesus is the Son of God, he like all these great things are happening, and they believe that, Jewish people can't say, yes, Jesus is the Son of God. No, because then you invalidate everything else you've said about your religion. So then you're just saying, well, I'm wrong. You're admitting to it. And this is one of the largest problems that like comes with religion. Like, so then Islam was able to keep things that Christianity had and keep things that Judaism had, and then Christianity couldn't be like, yeah, Muhammad's a prophet and everything, because Jesus had already came and done all of his wonderful work, and you can't admit that someone who came after you with new things that built onto what you said are right, because then you invalidate what you have said yourself.
It's a catch-22.
There you go. That's a way of looking at it. And so it creates this whole thing where just because everyone thinks they're right. And that is one of the biggest flaws of religion. Everyone thinks they're right, so everyone else has to be wrong.
Yeah.
Because if they're you both can't be right about the afterlife, you know?
It's not just like I can go up to Nirvana and then you go to heaven and we just wave.
And wave at each other from two different,
I like to
enlightened
think of it
states.
as like I like to think of it as like they're floating islands, and then like you like send off little like fireworks, and you can see it on the other side. It's just yay.
That would be a nice way for things to happen, but people can't think like that, you know. So that's one of like the biggest flaws of religion is like that large ideology of you have to be right, so inherently other people have to be wrong. And I mean, there's some religions that, you know, get around that. Granted, like Hinduism is very absorbent of every other religion known to man, because they're like, well, it's all an illusion and everything. So it doesn't matter what you call it or how you worship it, as long as you end up breaking the illusion. So it's like that's kind of like the great roundabout way of just like, you know, diverting from that whole path. Great job on that, you know, construction of that religion. Like, it's wonderful when you think of it that way. But I mean, along with like the divide that you have because of it, and like the things like the Crusades, the amount of hate that has just been built up over the years. Like, can we just talk about how much shit Jewish people have gotten in history?
Oh, they've been. I don't think that there has been a group of people who have been more shit on than Jewish people.
Like,
ever.
So you get kicked out of your homeland and dispersed all around the world, basically. And then you're in Europe and you get blamed for things like the plague. You get blamed for economic failures and everything.
Every single country, pretty much without failure, kicks you out at some point.
Like, they always got blamed for everything. And they still do.
Yeah.
Some people still think that they, like, are pulling the strings behind the scheme, like, you know, behind the scenes.
I think you're missing one big thing, too.
I mean,
a little thing
you know,
called
the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Like, you know, 9 million people getting slaughtered. I mean, granted, it wasn't just Jews, it was homosexuals and, you know...
I thought it was 11 million.
Was it 11?
It doesn't matter. It was a ridiculous
It's a catastrophic number
Yeah.
of people. But you have... Even Catholics got, you know... They got the hammer from Hitler.
Everyone.
It's just a mess. Because, like, with Hitler, a lot of his motivation and hatred was built off of, especially for the Jewish faith, was built from when he went to church as a kid. Because, like, one of his, like, leadership figures was his church leader, and he would preach hate at the Jews. So he was raised on that. Like, like Hitler was like bred to just be
Well, that
this
was just that,
machine
and
of hate.
additionally, that was just their scapegoat for World War II. They
Yeah.
felt like they were sold out
and
by
like he
Jewish people.
used that
at
to
Versailles.
unite a whole country.
Yeah.
And it was disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Like terrible. And so there's a lot of religious background though into like what created like that
And I mean now
brainwave of thinking.
Now even nowadays, modern day, they finally have their homeland back in Jerusalem. Right?
And there's still conflict.
And there's still conflict, and they're still fighting for it with the Palestinians. Not saying,
I'm not picking a side.
I'm not
I don't
picking
have a
a
dog
side.
in that fight.
No, I don't. I'm not educated enough. But all I'm saying is
They're still fighting for that, like their ability to have like what is it, the Zionist movement?
Zionist. I don't know.
Or
I know
Zionist.
what you're talking about, but that's like the movement of
Zionism is the term for the movement to have a homeland. I don't know what the correct translation of using that word into other forms would be.
like cactus and cacti.
That's one way of looking at it.
What? It is.
I mean, fair enough. But they just got shafted all throughout history by everyone. And I mean, like, other
If
things...
you look at, I think you could literally go to every single country without fail, and you can find some sort of example of anti-Semitism at some time. Like, without fail. I mean, maybe the Asian countries are saved.
Countries in Asia probably have some sort
but
of,
that's just because there aren't a lot of Jewish people there.
Yeah.
I mean...
But even then, like, I'll eat my words if you have an example, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy the amount of, like, hate that they've received just because of their faith. And because of, like, that divide between faiths.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like, it's... Ugh. I mean, other things that, like, religion have created, like, bad things out of... I mean, religion was used as an excuse for slavery for so long.
It was.
I mean, that was, like, one of their largest arguments was, like, well, the idea of, ruler and, like, subject is, like, expressed in the Bible and everything, and they would use Bible verses as an excuse to have slaves in, like, colonial America. And even once we, like, became a country and everything and they kept them, like, it was an excuse that they'd use. I mean, granted, later on, they would use the Bible as the excuse to not have slaves, or, like, the reasoning behind it. So it was, like, a two-way street of interpretation. And that's another thing I haven't even thought of until just now. The level of open interpretation that can be given in religion can be very dangerous. Like, it can be a good thing because people can personalize their faith, but it allows for people to manipulate a religion into something that it's not meant to be.
Yeah, that's like the entire purpose of the Protestant movement.
Is to personalize your religion.
Yeah, it's to interpret the Bible for yourself.
Your direct connection with God. But, like, in some scenarios, it can be extremely dangerous to have that open interpretation of, like, what these things mean, especially, like, when you start accounting for writings that aren't necessarily holy texts as well, and, like, people start using those and, like, claiming ideas about the faith built after
Like
the original text.
inherently-
Like, it's inherently a portion
part
of
of
it. Because that's, like, a misconception that a lot of people have. And, I mean, with the Crusades and everything, we have extremists on every end. Like, you have people who really cause a lot of damage in the name of their faith. Like, we have terrorists of every religion. And it's crazy.
Yeah. I think the moral of the story is it's the people.
That's a good way of looking at it.
I think that, like, I mean, you have, like, as you just said, you have pretty much every faith without fail. There is going to be an extremist group.
For the most part, yeah.
Like, I mean, isn't the KKK, for example?
I mean, it has a
extremist?
lot of Christian roots, yes.
You have...
I mean, you have terrorist organizations in the Middle East that have Islamic roots. You have infighting between all sorts of religions down in, like, East Asia.
Yeah. I mean, that's just kind of like, it's the people that ruin it. And kind of on top of that, like, a lot of people, like, by themselves are just kind of obnoxious with their faith.
Oh, I mean, I know people who bring it up in every conversation, without fail. And I get that faith is a large part of some people's lives, and it's extremely important to them, and it gives them all sorts of benefits. But, like people always say, the two things to avoid in conversation are religion and politics.
Mm-hmm.
That's the term that everyone, it's a saying. But some people just cannot shut up about religion.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets to a point of, it's so obnoxious.
It's just it's the same thing with everything else. It's moderation is key. If a huge part of your life is weightlifting, for example,
don't talk about bench
Don't-
pressing every conversation.
Don't talk about exactly.
I don't
talk
care about what your new deadlift record is.
Yeah, don't talk about how you just got out of the gym and how your sweat
And you
towel
can't,
was.
and your muscles are so tight you can't clap your hands.
Exactly. You can't lift a fork or whatever. It's the same thing. It's
It's
the same thing. Moderation is key.
we're gamer nerds. We don't talk about our video games every conversation with every single person.
Mm-hmm.
Or
There's a time and a place.
there's a time and a place for everything, and that's moderation is key. And it's crazy. It's just it baffles me. That's the word I've been looking for. It baffles me. It baffles me that all the bad things that have been created out of something that we deemed in the last episode so inherently good,
Mm-hmm.
because it is. But the people interpret it,
yeah.
I mean, one of the best examples of that is World War II Japan. They militarized a religion.
They did
Completely.
What now?
Shintoism, the spiritual religion of
Mm-hmm.
Japan, which has the idea of the great spirits and your ancestors, and the idea of the kami, which is a spirit, and kazi meaning storm.
Mm-hmm.
The term kamikaze was literally built off the Shinto religion and ruined by World War II and how they militarized the idea of their faith.
Oh my. It's crazy.
Japan mobilized a whole entire country into war by manipulating their faith.
Mm-hmm.
Some people can ruin things so quickly.
Yeah, I think if
And
if
it's
anything
individuals.
else, yeah.
It's individuals.
If you take anything from this, it's that religion is inherently good. It's the people that fuck it up. Like a lot of things.
Like a lot of things.
A lot of things.
And is that where we cut it?
I guess.
I guess. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope to see you next week.
All right. See ya.
See ya.